All right. I'm Resident of Collinwood, and joining me tonight for to continue our Star Wars reviews is at I_Barnabas Mark. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. It's been it's been a crazy few days, but I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So this starts off actually in space, and they're going to rescue uh goodness Palpatine.
Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chancellor Palpatine, and kill off Count Dooku. What were your thoughts on the opening of this?
this was probably the most fun opening of any Star Wars movie. I loved just going right into the space battle, and everything looked great. Um, all the ships and stuff flying, and the clones fighting, and Anakin and Obi-Wan just going right into the middle of it. It was fun. What did you think about it?
I thought they looked really. In this opening, they sold. Even though we talked a little bit about Attack of the, I felt Attack of the Clones should have been two movies. When they open this with them and how in sync they are together with their chemistry, it makes you feel like that Obi-Wan and Anakin have been together a long time.
It does.
So I think they sell it with the opening they do. It was smart because they sell their chemistry with their action.
They do. You can tell they're more like brothers now rather than snarky teacher and bratty student or whatever. They've become really close. They've been through a lot together.
Yeah, they. And here's the thing too. They had this. They had the start of the chemistry in really Attack of the Clones,
Hmm.
and they continue it here. And I love the fact that we're going to rescue the guy who's going to knife everybody in the back at the end
Oh
of this
yeah,
movie.
they had no idea.
No, they did not. What were your thoughts on them? They're getting rid of Count Dooku right away.
I I was okay with it, but when now I only saw this in a theater once. It's not like usual for me, but I only got to see this one once. Um, but when seeing Palpatine turn around in the chair, even though he was in shackles or whatever, it was very of Return of the Jedi when he was on the Death Star deck and was watching the battle from where he was. But seeing seeing Count Dooku get it the way he did completely took me by surprise because I'm used to seeing with Star Wars people losing an arm or something like that, but Anakin just straight up executed him, and he removed both of Dooku's arms, and he had his own and Dooku's lightsaber right there, like in a cross style, and you could see that conflict. That Anakin knew that he had to do it, but it wasn't the Jedi way to do it, and I just didn't expect Dooku's head to just go rolling off like that. That was not something I was used to seeing in a Star Wars movie.
No, George Lucas channeled his inner John Carpenter taking someone's head off here.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it,
And I always laughed at that one part right after Anakin does it, and when Palpatine says, "You did well, Anakin," and Anakin said, "I shouldn't have done that. He was an unarmed prisoner." I mean, literally in more ways than one, he was because Anakin cut both of them off. But I always got a good laugh on that part.
yeah, Obi-Wan, I think, is trying to praise him and let him know, hey, you made the right call by you. And I think he's
Right,
trying to give him some leeway. Like, look, you know what you had to do.
right,
It's not like he was situation reverse. He's doing the same thing, and I think
right.
that's the I love the hat, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I think that that's what Obi-Wan was trying to get across. What did you think of when they land? We see Padme. She's pregnant, man. She's out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
She's definitely showing. I thought that was one thing I really love, and I hate when people knock Hayden Christensen about his acting, which I thought he was good. Um, but that one scene where Padme breaks the news, that was good because you could see so many emotions in his face, and in that one scene where he was happy, but at the same time he was terrified and thinking, "Oh crap, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Because they can't hide it forever." So you could see him conveying a lot of emotions at once, and
hmm
I thought knocked that scene out of the park.
Yeah, I agree with you here. All the emotion that they've been building with Anakin, especially in the second movie, you pointed out so well how he lost his mother, and you saw a lot of the dark side come out there. Well, here you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing just emotion that he's happy, but he's worried. Like you just
Yeah,
said, and the same thing too with Padme. She's happy, but she's a little worried too. Where
yeah,
Padme was sort of hot, like controlling her emotions in the second one. She controlled her emotions a bit here, but she lets him out by the end of this movie before her death.
yeah, yeah. She does. She does. She was always the one that could stay more in control, but now, yeah, there was just too much going on in this movie for her to keep it inside any longer. That is absolutely true.
So, what did you think of? They finally made Kenobi a general in this. I found that interesting.
Hmm. I did too. I thought it was neat how they, I guess, where the Republic had changed when Jar Jar gave uh, Palpatine emergency powers. I thought it was kind of neat how they militarized a Jedi Knight uh, with Kenobi. So I mean, it was letting you know that Palpatine was manipulating the way that the Jedi were running things because I guess they were, um, like Mace Windu said in the last movie. He said we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers. Well, now Palpatine has definitely made that different.
Yeah, what he's basically been trying to do this whole series, and is finally successful. Really, is get them out in the forefront. Is really get them on the battle lines, not
Yeah.
so much in the shadows, and then them take care of it like they're CIA agents. Oh no, no, no! You went from being undercover to, well, now no, you're out in the open. And
Hmm.
he orchestrated this beautifully from a character standpoint from start to this movie. What were your thoughts on, you have Anakin, a lot of things fester within him throughout this movie, with Padme, him getting so concerned about her death. And even though, what were your thoughts on the Jedi Council not making him a member of the council?
I could kind of see their point, but I think at the same time you could see. I think Anakin was definitely worthy of being a master because his abilities and everything. But I think at the same time
Mhm.
they were afraid of what they couldn't control, and I think they could sense a lot of things about Anakin, that he was too unpredictable. But you could see that Obi-Wan didn't agree with them necessarily, that he really didn't think the council was doing Anakin right, and you could see when they told him no that, you could see Obi-Wan shaking his head that he didn't agree with the council. And I think Mace was the the loudest voice in voicing concern about advancing Anakin any at all. He didn't trust Anakin at all.
No, Mace Windu was one of the most I would say cautious Jedi. And to him, he's the one Jedi I would say trust had to be literally earned. You literally had to be. I'll say this: Mace Windu and Chancellor Palpatine, in many ways, are the same person but for opposite sides. They want absolute loyalty.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. That's a very very good analogy. I didn't think about that. That's very very good.
Because my point of this is with Palpatine, we talked about Darth Maul, and we talked about how loyal Darth Maul was. Well, Palpatine had his loyal servant in many ways in Maul, but with Maul's death, he had to replace him. And you have Anakin, who is recruited by Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon, we've talked about Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon did not give two shits about being on that council. He was not Anakin.
No.
He wasn't this. Oh, I give a shit about being on the council. No, he didn't give a shit about being on the council. He just went to them when he had to. Absolutely. With
Absolutely.
with Anakin, it's different. And then you look at Palpatine. He's looking at this situation and he's going, okay, this guy's vulnerable and he wants power. I need someone who can be loyal to me. I don't think he necessarily fully trusted Anakin, but he trusted Anakin enough because of Anakin's raw emotion. I think there's where the littlest difference is between Palpatine and Mace Windu. When Mace is, you had to. Windu even questions Qui-Gon on a lot of stuff.
Right.
So, which, but what are your thoughts on Windu and Palpatine, the two of them? Sorry.
I don't think I can say it any better than you just did. I think Mace Windu was always someone that would like you said, he demanded loyalty, and I think he was always someone that looked out for the greater good
Mm-hmm.
and would find a way to justify doing um, what he felt was for the greater good. That he could always justify his actions no matter what. Just like when, and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when he confronts Palpatine and he has Palpatine, at bay, I guess, and in a position where he could kill him, and Anakin says, "No, this isn't the Jedi way. This isn't the way you're supposed to do." And he says, "No, he's too dangerous to be left alive. He has control of everyone else. So I'm going to do and in this once and for all." So I think Mace is someone that is, I would say, a bit self-righteous and could justify anything that he does and
Mm-hmm.
that he's himself. Um, but yeah, I think you hit it spot on where you were saying that they both demand loyalty and absolute um, uh, just absolute faith in what they're doing and don't disagree with me or I'll never trust you again.
Yeah, that's
You know,
about. I like that. That's basically them, and they're so. I'd say Mace is a little more edgier than Palpatine with it because Palpatine, though he's a Sith, he'll reason. If he has to, he'll reason just to get his way. Kylo. I know we're jumping. Kylo Ren is a perfect example of that. But
oh yeah,
so, what were your thoughts then finally bringing General Grievous to life with this?
I liked Grievous. I mean I understand that not everyone likes him, but I thought he was really really cool. Now I haven't seen the Clone Wars, and I've heard about how he gets his cough or whatever, but and that he was used more in the Clone Wars series. But I loved him in this movie, and when I saw this in the theater for the first time, when he faces off against Obi-Wan, when he pulls out sabers and starts spinning his wrists, I had never seen anything like that before. This was like when I was seeing Duel of the Fates and Darth Maul fighting for the first time. I was like, holy crap, how is he going to beat this guy? How is one person going to take Grievous down? And that was cool. I really like Grievous a lot.
I like the fact that they just have Grievous and Kenobi fight, even though there's soldiers around. They literally go with this one-on-one lightsaber battle, even though Obi-Wan only, like you said, only has one lightsaber. He's willing to throw down. With Attack of the Clones, the series, with the Clone Wars, really, I should say, the series, yeah, Grievous is more heavily used. You're absolutely right. And when you watch that, you'll see just how heavily he's used, because he's, in many ways, they make Grievous sort of the forefront antagonist. Palpatine's in the shadows. You know he's there. You see him,
Yeah.
but he's with Clone Wars. Grievous is sort of a lot more of your antagonist in it, which is interesting. They don't necessarily, they do change some things obviously a bit with this because it's an anime series, but again, I didn't mind it. The only thing again I didn't like about the Clone Wars was, again, Clone Wars is, by the time it's released, the prequels have come and gone a long time, and they foreshadow Anakin's turn more so than what they did in these three movies.
That's what I heard. That it really fills in a lot of the gaps where the movies, I guess, had to rush Anakin's turn a little bit. That you see a lot more of it in the Clone Wars cartoon. So that's something that I would like to see someday. I've been meaning to get into the Clone Wars for a while now, actually.
It's definitely worth a check out. I've watched all of it when it first came on Cartoon Network. I was like, "Are you watching a cartoon Star Wars?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is really good. You got to sit down and watch this." And she started watching a little bit of it with me when it first aired, and I think honestly, from a storyboard sense, it's perfect. Other than, I don't mind the foreshadowing because your story is so good. And I don't mind the little changes you made because they make sense. If
Right.
you're putting Grievous over, then damn it, put him over. And really, they keep Palpatine over too with his little. He's a lot more smirkier in the uh, attack in the Clone Wars, is what I'll say. He's a lot more narcissistic, way more, I would say, in the Clone Wars than what he is in these three movies. But what were your thoughts on Mace Windu actually beating Palpatine in a fight?
I've got mixed feelings on that because I think, I guess he did, but at the same time, I wondered if Palpatine could sense Anakin coming
Mm-hmm.
and he allowed himself to get beaten, and to see Mace Windu, attacking him, and I guess creating that conflict for Anakin. So part of me has always been torn between, I can't figure out if Mace really beat him or if Palpatine to some degree allowed himself to get beaten for the purpose of Anakin completing his turn. That he knew that because he had talked to him, that he knew a way um, to keep Padme from dying, to stop people from dying, if that
Mm-hmm.
was what he needed for Anakin, to completely turn.
Now I get what you're saying. I see your point. It's a great point because by the time Anakin comes over, I mean the battle's basically all but over, and he, Mace is our, Anakin knows a lot of things. Anakin knows that Mace has been against him joining the Council. He knows that Mace is very self righteous, but we were touching on earlier where Anakin. I mean, I love your points you make. He kills Count Dooku, and he knows it wasn't the Jedi way. So he doesn't want Mace to do what he did, to sort of go against the Jedi way. And I found that, I think right there, that's the last little bit of ounce of Anakin that was truly left. But when, as soon as he saw Mace like go down that road, I think Anakin honestly went with him. I think
Yeah.
Anakin just went right with him. But I agree with what you said, though, that Palpatine, again, puppet master, you pointed this out so well. He literally is just, he knows he's got the Senate in his pocket.
Yeah.
He needs Anakin, and he gets Anakin by putting over Mace Windu. I think in many, many ways.
And you notice Palpatine is not as secretive in this one as he was in the previous two. He knows that he's already won. The only thing he has left is to get Anakin as his apprentice. That's the only thing. And Palpatine is not so secretive, and he's a lot more relaxed in letting his guard down and letting them know that he knows the dark side. And in that scene where he finally, broke down and told Anakin, he did it with such ease, like it was not like he was completely confident in revealing this to Anakin finally. So he's got everything he needs once they kill Dooku. The war is technically over, so Palpatine has won. The only thing he needs now is Anakin.
Yeah, and two, with, I think, Palpatine knew one way or the other Grievous was going to go. Grievous was going to meet his end. I think he knew. I think he knew that too, and it's crazy to think with this series. What I love about the prequels the most is Palpatine, though he's got the Senate, though he's ready to wipe out the Jedi, he's banking all that on Anakin's turn. That's his card.
The right buttons to push, because he was saying, if they don't make you my personal apprentice, I'll be surprised. And then he was saying, if they don't make you a master, I'll be surprised. So he knew all the right buttons to push to get Anakin to turn against the Jedi.
Yeah, I like what you said. He talks to Anakin about the dark side. He's revealing himself. How did you feel about Anakin, though he's listening? He still goes to Mace Windu and tells him, I think Palpatine's the Sith Lord we've been looking for.
I think Anakin was trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
and struggling to do the right thing, but he knew that. I guess he was probably questioning at the time if what Palpatine was telling him was true. That there was a power that there was a, what was his name, Darth Plagueis, the Wise, had the power to stop people from dying. And I guess at that moment, Anakin was questioning everything that had been told him, and he was just doing what he thought was right. But I think in the time where Mace was going to confront Palpatine at the temple, he started second guessing and thinking, what if this is really true? What if he does have a way to save Padme, because he was having the same nightmares that he was having about his mother dying. And I think Anakin was like, oh, what have I done? And so he wanted to go interfere himself to see what was going on.
Yeah, I agree with you. The biggest, the most conflicted character ever will be Anakin in this Forever series. He really has the most confliction of any character I've ever seen in the Star Wars franchise. And his confliction and for somebody, I'll say this, for somebody who didn't have a dad, he doesn't want to lose the ones he loves.
Right.
But what he's not understanding is your actions cause that too. And that's one thing he loses with his actions is he loses Padme, he loses Obi-Wan's loyalty because Obi-Wan knows.
Hmm.
What?
Yeah, and, um, I think that scene, and I just want to bring up something.
Good.
That scene of space opera, where I guess it's a space opera, whatever it is, but where he and Palpatine are sitting together, and Palpatine tells the story of Darth Plagueis and the apprentice killing him in his sleep. That sent chills down me, and still does anytime I hear him telling that story.
He was the apprentice. That's the thing too.
Yeah, yeah. And he tells it like it's like he's so proud of that story, and you can see that smile on his face when he turns his head back, and he's telling about the apprentice killing the master in his sleep. And yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. I thought that was such a good chilling scene.
Yeah, Palpatine is at his most sinisterness in this film, and he's just, man, he's a joy to watch. I mean, even though he's evil, he's just, the actor is amazing. He
Yeah.
sells like no one's business,
Hmm.
and it's just really amazing performances all around. What do you think the best lightsaber battle was in this movie?
Oh my goodness, it's hard to tell because there were so many of them. I I would say probably Anakin versus Obi Wan at the end, just because of the emotion behind it. That's my favorite one. But I really one between Yoda and Palpatine as well.
Hmm.
And I didn't expect Palpatine to be so good with a saber. And yeah, when he's confronted by Mace in the temple, and you see him pull out a lightsaber, I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And then when Yoda confronts him after he's already disfigured and everything, and he's taking control of the Senate and has announced that everything's going to be reorganized into the Empire. Um, that was a good scene between him and Yoda, and I thought it was kind of ironic that they fought in the Senate chamber and everything was, they were Palpatine was throwing um, a lot of the seats and podiums and things in the Senate at Yoda using the Force, and I thought that was kind of symbolic of how the Republic and everything was just crumbling now, and there was nothing left, so everything was, um, you know, turning into the way that Palpatine wanted it.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much, there's a lot of great drama with this. The play, the fighting, and it's all just boiling over. I think the most, and prior to all that fighting, I think what really gets it over is the death of a lot of the Jedi. The youngins getting killed, a lot of the Jedi Masters just being wiped out. I mean, you have all that, and I think a lot of that sword emotion we get is because of that. Really, that to me is a perfect setup to all that.
Yeah, the way the music plays when Palpatine orders 66,
Yep.
that was such a heartbreaking scene. You could really feel a lot going on, and it was really sad seeing all that going down and everything just falling apart in minutes.
Yeah, it's again George Lucas did a beautiful job with these movies. It just what to you? What was the? How did you feel about them actually showing him becoming Darth Vader in this?
Oh man, that was probably the best scene. Um, Now, when I went to the theater, um, it was a little noisy. People were cheering and everything, but when it showed Anakin, on the bed,
Hmm.
and the mask was coming down, and it looked almost like Terminator vision when the mask was coming down over his eyes. It was dead silent in the theater, and when it made, when the helmet connected and it made that little air hiss, and he drew that first breath, it was like deathly quiet, like a funeral, um, in that moment. And it was that was probably the most like I felt so much emotion in that moment when I saw it for the first time in the theater. Um, I was excited to see Darth Vader, but at the same time I was sad because of everything that had led up to it, and it just felt like a whole lot of different things. But I was excited to see it finally happen, and this is how he became Darth Vader, and like the story was complete. How about you?
I think I was relieved how they did this and the way they did this. Just the whole series, and then them actually showing him becoming Vader. Obi-Wan wins the fight. They've lost the war in a lot of ways. They know they have to retreat. They know they have to go into hiding. But the one thing Obi-Wan can walk away with is he knows he defeated Anakin. He knows he defeated him in battle. But it's sort of a somber note because there's been a lot of death. And
Yeah,
you have one final death. You have many death sequences. You have Padme dying, but she gives birth to two babies, Luke and Leia.
mhm,
And then you have the what Obi-Wan described, the death of Anakin Skywalker and the birth of Darth Vader.
yeah,
To like Obi-Wan says, in a lot of ways he's saying when Anakin died, Darth Vader was born, and that's true in every way. In every
mhm,
way, how Obi-Wan described that in A New Hope, it happened
mhm,
in this movie, and it was beautiful to
yeah,
watch. It's sad, but it's beautiful as hell.
yeah. It is. It's a beautiful tragedy. I think is a way to describe it. And I want to talk for a second about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was always someone that had, um, like full belief in the Jedi. He had 100% belief in the Jedi way, and what they were doing was right. And you could see, I really felt one of the last times I watched Revenge of the Sith, and I watched a little bit of it today. I didn't get to finish it. You could see um, a lot of Obi-Wan's beliefs being shaken, and you could see it just really affecting him. And when he had to, fight Anakin, that was the ultimate, um, I guess, the ultimate shakeup for him because his belief system had failed. Everything he believed in had crumbled. He believed in the Republic and what they stood for. He believed in the Jedi and what they stood for. And in minutes, all of that was taken away. And the one he loved the most, Anakin, like a brother, he had to fight against him, and he defeated him. And I really felt for Obi-Wan in this. I thought that he really went through a lot, almost as, I guess, when you think about it, as much as Anakin did, that everything he stood for and believed in was gone. And he didn't want to, he didn't want to accept it, but he had to. And I just felt like by the end of this, he was a broken man. And all he had left to do was to try to, um, I guess, watch over Anakin's children. And I guess that was a way of feeling like he could make up where he had failed Anakin, or where he felt that he had failed Anakin, was to watch over his children and make sure that they were safe. And I thought Obi-Wan's arc in this was pretty interesting.
Do you feel that the prequel series is Obi-Wan's story?
Um, I guess you could see it that way. I guess I feel like it's mostly Anakin's, but I think that there's a lot in here for Obi-Wan as well. Um, and I've told you before, he is my favorite character, and I guess you can see, you can take this as a lot of Obi-Wan's story. Yeah, I can see it that way.
I meant to rephrase the question, so I'm sorry. what I meant to say was, do you feel it's Obi-Wan telling us this story? Is what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
Okay. Um, I yeah. Actually, that makes sense
Okay.
because it does start off with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon going on the Trade Federation ship. So the very first scene is, you know, is with Obi-Wan. So yeah, I can definitely see that. I never thought about that way before.
How did, prior to him, Anakin becoming Darth Vader with the suit, how did you like how he looked in the cloak and the robe? Just
Yeah,
medicine or what?
I liked it. I thought it was odd at first when I watched it for the first time, where Palpatine named him Darth Vader before he had gotten the suit and everything. So I thought that was kind of odd, but I liked seeing him, still in his more human form.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, turning heel. So what about you? How did you feel about that?
I'm thinking, yeah, you've turned partial heel. I mean, you're killing people. It's the
Oh,
oldest wrestling terminology that I use because to me, you're either a baby face or you're a heel or you're somewhere in between.
mm-hmm.
Or a baby face could be a baby face can become a heel, and Star Wars is proof of that. Just like a heel can become a baby face. So Anakin is turned partial face. He's killing people. And some people might say, well, wait, you're saying he's only a partial heel when he's killing people? Yeah, because to me, the last two people he has to turn on is Padme and Obi-Wan. And he does
Yeah.
that. And that's when to me, when he turns full heel, isn't when he puts on the suit. It's when he's choking Padme and then he fights Obi-Wan. There's where he's the heel. There's where
Right.
it's where it's truly complete. And I know some people might say, well, wait, he doesn't have the suit on. He doesn't have to have that suit on to become Lord Vader. He's already been dubbed Lord Vader. He had to prove how far he would go to become Lord Vader. And he had
Yeah.
proven by the time he gets to the planet and wipes out those other aliens, and you see Padme, and at first they embrace, you're thinking, now is he gonna go back and reform? You know he's not. But when he chokes her, you thought, my first thought was, you son of a bitch. And then Obi-Wan's like, let her go. And I love the line. He goes, "You've turned her against me. You've done that yourself." I love that line from
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. That was great. And he's right.
Yeah.
You've done this all yourself. And in many ways, Obi-Wan's not wrong.
Right. And it's just like Palpatine said when he was telling Anakin the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. He said the only thing that he was so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power. And at that moment when Anakin ran to Padme and she was saying that, you're breaking my heart and you're going down a road that I can't go with you,
Mm-hmm.
then Anakin, he sees Obi-Wan and he says, you brought him here to kill me. So, I mean, that was proof, just like everything had come full circle. What Anakin was afraid of was losing that power, because he was talking to her that, he was getting ready to slay Palpatine, and then they could rule the galaxy and make things that they wanted the way that they wanted. And, so Anakin didn't have loyalty to Palpatine, really. He had loyalty to power. And, yeah, he was ready to overthrow the Emperor.
That is
yeah.
That is a great point you made. Absolutely correct. I love that. That's a great point. What did you think of that? Once this ends, you have Yoda in seclusion, you have Obi-Wan on Tatooine, and you have literally the birth of the Empire by the end of this movie. It's leading us into A New Hope. What what were your thoughts, and what do you give this movie out of a 1 out of a 10?
I'm going to give this movie. I'm going to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. I thought that it connected everything perfectly, and for the longest time, for 10 years, I was thinking this is the last Star Wars movie, and I thought this movie bridged that gap so perfectly. Um, I, uh, I thought it was such a great way to end with Owen and Beru holding Luke, and then looking at the twin sons together, which that was, um, I guess a symbol of a new hope was on its way. And I loved the fact of Obi-Wan being close and watching from a distance, that he was going to stay and watch over Anakin. And I loved the ending of with Jimmy Smits, what was his name, Bail Organa, that he was going to take Leia, and Leia was going to be raised up in politics and as a princess, as we all know her to be. And I thought everything just fit perfectly, and it was connected great. But yeah, I give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. I would have liked a little bit more. I guess there was a lot more that I would have liked to have seen in this movie. Some things with Anakin's turn, a little bit more leading up to it. But I guess I would probably see that, like you said, in the Clone Wars. I guess the foreshadowing of Anakin's turn. But yeah, I love Revenge of the Sith there, and it's a movie that I love it more and more every time I watch it. How about you?
I'm gonna give this a 9.5 as well. I've always given it a 9.5, so we have the same rating. Here's where my biggest gripe is with the prequels, and it's the same gripe I had with Attack of the Clones. If you put more of a story, if you make Attack of the Clones a 2-part movie, you can still tell this same movie here with a 2-part of Attack of the Clones. At least, and what proofs? If you want proof of that, folks, go watch Clone Wars and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. Because the proof is in that series. I'm going, if they would have took half of this, and put it in as another Attack of the Clones movie, I'm like, you could have still had Revenge of the Sith. So,
Exactly. George had a lot of story to pack into one movie.
yes, he
Into
did.
this one, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more.
George Lucas was so ahead of his time. I mean, even with these, he delivers on these prequels. I mean, 1,000%. I don't really. Again, what I'm complaining about is probably nitpicky, and it probably is. So, I gotta ask you this question: how excited are you? And shout out to @FredBarnabas for giving us this info that we're getting an Obi-Wan series.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm excited. Of course, I'm excited. Like I said, he's my favorite, so I want Obi-Wan's story to continue, because there's a lot of years there. There were between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, I think there were about 18 or 19 years. So yeah, there's a lot of good potential for good storytelling, I think, with that.
I think the one thing they gotta make clear that Clone Wars was hint that not only Clone Wars but a lot of other Star Wars anime has hinted at is that Obi-Wan was helping the rebellion all along, and I think that's the one thing they need to make clear with this series, because I do think he was helping them.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, because I'd like to see. I'm wanting to see the Clone Wars. I've got to make the time to sit down and watch it.
That is a perfect watch along for you and the missus.
Oh, okay, awesome. He doesn't like I do, but yeah, I would definitely love to get into the Clone Wars.
it's really, again, it's really well told. They did,
Mhm.
Cartoon Network, even though the only thing, again, the only thing I didn't like was the foreshadowing. But again, I get why they. Here's the biggest takeaway from Clone Wars. Clone Wars, though not made for adults, is more made for kids, and they're trying to make Anakin's turn understandable to young teens, to young like 10, 14 demographic. But the way they do this cartoon, it's they're also telling it to the adults, and it keeps the way they lay this story out and how long this storyboard is. It keeps you vested. You have a vested interest in it because of how they're telling it. Because it tad differs from the prequels, but not so much to where you're going, oh, I hate it. You're like, oh no, I wish this was in some of the movies.
Mhm.
So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah,
so
I've been wanting to see this, and I'm curious to know how Darth Maul is in the clone. I mean, I'm assuming it's Darth Maul, and not just like another member of, I guess whatever species he is. But yeah, there's a lot in Clone Wars that I have a lot of questions that I'd like to see it.
yeah, Darth Maul is in this. You are correct.
Oh, okay,
He's in
okay.
it. He's in it. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel Qui-Gon was a true Jedi?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think he was unconventional and out of the box thinker. Um, Not traditional, but yeah, I think so. What about you?
I'm gonna go no, and I'm gonna give my reason. It's that Qui-Gon saying to Anakin, "Well, how do you know I didn't kill a Jedi?" I'm thinking, wait a second, did you kill a Jedi? there's, I think there's a shade of. Here's the thing. Again, each character, you're right, you know this. Each character differs, and I love that about Qui-Gon and that all the other characters. But there's just something about Qui-Gon I'm suspect to, and it's you hear Dooku say Qui-Gon would have joined him. Now I don't think Qui-Gon would have joined the dark side. I call bullshit on that.
Yeah,
But I do think there I don't think there was so much dark in Qui-Gon, but there was a lot of gray.
yeah,
That's where I'll say that.
and I can see that. That makes sense. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I can absolutely see that.
It's crazy to think how I love how Obi-Wan turns out different from Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan's not Qui-Gon because it's like I'm looking at Obi-Wan like Obi-Wan, dog, you got a weird teacher there, buddy.
True, true. He was definitely not your normal teacher.
No,
He
and
wasn't a traditional Jedi at all.
no, and like I love what you've pointed out. Obi-Wan is in every way.
Hmm.
Obi-Wan, in a lot of ways, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul are the same. They're both believers,
Hmm.
and they're teachers. Again, Palpatine is different, and definitely Qui-Gon was different. So, oh goodness, is there anything you want to add?
Um, let's see. I'm trying to think. Did you feel pretty satisfied and pretty complete with the way that this ended?
Yeah, I think for what we got, yes. I think George Lucas did everything he could to give us a another trilogy that was very good. I look at the prequels and I felt happy, that I wasn't disappointed at all. What about you?
Yeah, I felt good. I felt like the Revenge of the Sith, put a nice bow on things, and I thought that it wrapped up the story of the first uh, of the first 6 movies. There were some things that I wish I could have gotten more of. That I'm pretty sure I'll probably get in Clone Wars. But for the most part, I was happy. But at the same time, I was sad because I really was believing that this was going to be the last Star Wars film that we would ever get. Did you believe that?
Right up until the point they turned around and did Clone Wars. Because with Cartoon Network, once they start investing into a series, I'm going, yeah, I didn't know what. I'm not clairvoyant, but I thought to myself, yeah, I'm sure we'll get Star Wars movies down the road. I didn't know what we were gonna get, but we got what we got. So I felt we were getting something. I just didn't know what exactly it was with it.
Gotcha.
I mean, here's the
But
thing. In every franchise, there's money to be made. And if there's money to be made, if a studio sees the money, rest assured there's going to be more.
definitely the most lucrative film franchise ever, and probably always will be.
I do have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have two questions for you. One's a Star Wars question, and one's a Dark Shadows question.
Okay.
And it's the same question, but different franchises. If you could pick one person to compose Star Wars today, or one person to compose Dark Shadows today, who would it be?
Oh, compose like the music?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, because John Williams, with Rise of Skywalker, that was his last one. Um, oh goodness, I really like, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, Michael Giacchino. I probably said his last name wrong. I think he did do the score for Rogue One, and he did the score for the Kelvin Star Trek movies. I really love a lot of his music. I think he's great, and I think no matter what project he does, I think he captures the moods pretty well. So I would say him, or yeah, I want to say him. I want to stick with him. I thought about Hans Zimmer, but the last few scores that I've heard of Hans Zimmer have kind of turned me off of him a little bit. So I want to stay with Michael Giacchino.
Now for Dark Shadows, or
Yeah,
okay.
I would say Dark Shadows because I think he captures the mood of anything he scores pretty well, and he's pretty inventive.
I'm gonna cheat. for for Star Wars, even though he passed away, if I could have picked anybody, I would have loved to have heard Ennio Morricone do Star Wars. He's my favorite composer of all time. Hell, he's John Carpenter's favorite composer. And he did my favorite. He composed my favorite western of all time, which was Once Upon a Time in the West. Him and Sergio Leone teamed up a bunch of times, and I dare say that was their best one. And it's just from start to finish done right with the score and the way it's shot. For Dark Shadows, I would get on my knees and beg John Carpenter to score Dark Shadows.
That could be good.
That
could be real.
Hell, to write, to direct, to score it. Please, Mr. Carpenter, please.
Can you imagine if he wrote and directed the next Dark Shadows movie?
I would. Oh my God, I'd be over the moon. I really
Yeah,
would.
I mean, I'm just thinking of that John Carpenter's Dark Shadows. Imagine? Can you
I would.
imagine?
I don't think I could take my kids to see that one.
No, no.
Although I did take them to see Halloween 2018, so I can't.
True, but I think John Carpenter's Dark Shadows would be something that would be right up my alley. I would definitely be fanboying on that.
Absolutely, it would be an awesome thing to see if it ever happens. I know we'd both be excited.
Mm, absolutely.
We are gonna do A New Hope. We've got Empire Strikes Back to do, the Return of the Jedi,
Hmm.
and Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. Anything else you
What?
want to add on, Mark?
No, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for being on.
No, thank you for joining me, and thank you so much for coming on and just being a great guest. I love your insight, man. Um, we will definitely schedule our next one. You and your missus have a great night, and God bless, man.
You too. Thank you so much.
You're
Good
welcome.
night.
Good night. And, okay.